Join your host Brody Otway as he interviews a guest about whatever they're a fan of, from backshots to Battlebots.
Fandoms here, we share the love. Every topic you're dreaming of. Join the chat, let's fan away. This is Fandoms, come and stay.
Today on the show, we'll be talking to Sarah about Battlebots. Welcome to the show, Sarah.
Hey, thanks so much. Excited to be here. Talk about some BattleBots. Any excuse I can get.
So, what exactly is Battlebots for somebody who's never heard of it?
Okay, so BattleBots is essentially a robot combat tournament. There's several levels from lightweight to heavyweight, with the world champions being the one that's televised on Discovery, and it's just a bunch of engineers get together and make these robots that have saw blades or flippers or flamethrowers. There's a fairly few rules as to what can't be on a robot, so just any weapon you can imagine pretty much they've had, and they each fight 4 matches in the regular season, and then the top 32 duke it out for the giant nut, which is the a trophy in the shape of a giant nut.
That's awesome. Do any BattleBots ever end up getting so mangled they have to get retired before their 4 matches are done?
I haven't seen it. I've seen 7 seasons of the show now. I haven't seen them get totally mangled, but there are some, because not every team has as big of a budget as others, where they'll borrow different pieces from other teams, or they'll have to they have welding services on site, so they'll have to re-weld stuff. One bot only has 1 frame, so if it does get too damaged, they are done. But I've never seen a robot fully disqualified because it was so badly mangled that it couldn't be fixed before its next fight.
Okay, so how did you first get into BattleBots?
Honestly, as a lot of things tend to happen, I got into it ironically. It had been like midnight or something like that. My partner at the time and I, we were up really late, and probably inebriated or something, and we were scrolling through the TV guide, and there wasn't really anything on, and I saw BattleBots, and I'm like, this sounds so silly, but he's a big robot guy, and I was like, maybe this will be something he likes, I don't know. And I put it on, and it was robot combat, and we had this moment where we were like, this looks so stupid, but it's so late at night, whatever, let's just put it on. And so the first time we watched it, it was kind of like an ironic thing. And then a night or two later, it must have been a marathoner showing old matches or something, because it was on again. And I laughed. I was like, cool, let's do this again. And then at that point, I already knew kind of what was going on, so I could focus on it more and have some context to it. And after that, I just started watching it whenever it was on. And then it really snowballed from there. I don't know when it switched from irony to not, but suddenly I was looking up all the old seasons, and we would watch them once or twice a week until we were all caught up. So it was supposed to be a joke, and then after a couple episodes I was like, this is actually really cool, and then now I'm huge into it, so there's that.
That's awesome. So do you have a favorite robot or team?
I do. My favorite robot is Hydra from Team Waiachi. It's captained by Jake Ewert, and it is a flipper bot, which means that it just has an arm that the goal is to get under the other robot and then shoot it up into the air. But they self-identify it as a launcher bot instead of a flipper bot, because it gets them so high up in the air. Up until the off-season tournament that just finished airing, it was the only robot to ever officially touch the ceiling with another robot. And it has happened one other time since then with a different flipper bot. But yeah, it's my favorite. I'm so obsessed with Hydra. I have a Hydra t-shirt. The bot itself has a 74% win rate. But I call myself a Waiachi simp. Their whole team is great. They're like a whole family. They're considered one of the pioneer families of BattleBots. So there's 4 brothers, and their dad captained Son of Waiachi in the Comedy Central days, and there was a bigger robot called Waiachi, so this was the smaller version of it, but still a heavyweight bot. His brother Reese captains Fusion, which is a cool robot, but it's not great. It's not successful. Then when BattleBots returned to TV, he was also part of Son of Waiachi and Warrior Clan before he went out to Fusion. The other brother Luke pirated Warrior Clan, also known as Warrior Dragon, and Waiachi, and then their last brother Clint was also on Team Warrior Clan. and Captain Falcon. Their whole family just has made at least 6 robots that have made it to the heavyweight tournaments, and then they also have like mid-level and low weight robots. So I love that whole family, but Hydra is the coolest design, the coolest concept, and their captain just has the biggest personality, so he has to be my favorite of them all.
That's awesome. It sounds like they got quite the thing going on with their family. I wish I had something like that with my kids. Like, oh, I couldn't build a robot to save my life.
Right? It's so awesome. And then Jake has a son now named Corbin, and he's already officially registered on the team. So we're looking at 3 generations. Hopefully, there have been some younger kids who have competed in the full world championship before. So maybe when he gets up there, we'll have 3 generations. But yeah, the whole family's great.
That's so cool. Yeah, I got a little bit of PTSD myself with those flipper bots just because me and my cousin had some BattleBot toys when we were younger, and mine was like this lame thing with 2 wheels and a like pretend saw that just like went up and down as it like rolled around, and my cousin's flipped. So like it would flip yours over. So like the rule was if your bot was like upside down and you couldn't get it unflipped without touching it, we'd be like, you lose. So I never won, like, ever, because my bot was just lame. I think they were literally different weight class ones, too.
Oh, probably. That's hilarious. Those toys are something else, man.
Oh, yeah. So, do you own any BattleBot merch?
Oh, so, like, probably too much. I have, right now I have 2 t-shirts. I already mentioned the Hydra one, and then one that's just got, like, a collage of different robots on it that I got for I think my birthday. And when I was younger, I had those McDonald's in 2002 had BattleBots toys where they had 7 replica robots and then an 8th like custom one called I think like Mac Attack or something like that, and it was shaped like a Big Mac. But I had
I forgot about those.
Right? Oh my god, yeah. I until I got back into BattleBots in my, mid to late 20s, I totally forgot that the McDonald's toys were a thing, and then I thought about it, I'm like, I think I had those. So I had 4 of them. I had Tento Mushi, which is like this ladybug thing, like it was literally a robot shaped like a ladybug. Ginsu, which had just like a bunch of different blades. Dissector, which I think had a flipper on it and probably a blade somewhere, and then Biohazard, which is just like this, it almost looked like a shell, and I think it was probably a spinner bot, which is one of those robots that just spins really fast and knocks people around. But now I have 2 of the official replicas. I have Bronco and Sub-Zero, and they're just ones that you would like move your fingers around. But Hexbug, I think, is the company. They make replica ones as well that are remote control. So I have Rotator and Duck, and you can they fully have their weapons functioning and stuff. And you can tell how much I talk about BattleBots because I used to post every week on my Instagram story my predictions for the night. And so my coworker texted me, and she was thrift shopping in Kenora, and she sent me a picture of this replica BattleBots arena, and she's like, it's for sale for like $2. I was like, I'm gonna go down and pick it up, and I did. So I looked it up thinking, this thing must be old, or I wonder like how much this thing goes for. This is probably like a $50 thing. So I looked it up, and still it goes for $149.99 US, or $200.67 Canadian, and I got it at some thrift store for $2. So every now and then I'll fire up my remote control robots and just buzz them around because they're funny.
For $2, holy shit!
Yeah, I was not expecting that. I just brought home this little $2 thing, and then it was like $200 apparently. It's like, I guess that person did not know the value of it when they got it or something, because it was quite a price drop.
Yeah, that or like somebody passed away and like their family just sent it to the thrift shop not thinking to check the price.
Yeah, or like they got out of BattleBots and donated it thinking whatever, I'm not into this anymore. But I can't see anyone just willingly donating a $200 item like that.
Yeah, no, that's a sick find. Oh, I wish I had a everybody's got these awesome thrift stories, and I've never found anything super cool yet. I still go though, all the time.
Yeah, you have to go check, right? Shoutouts to Dakota, because she was just like, haha, look at this thing, and then I got it, and it even has my cat hates it because sometimes he'll lay in the box, but if he puts his paw under the real arena has these hammers called pulverizers, and this one has 2 of them, and you just kind of tap it, and the hammer drops. So sometimes it doesn't hurt him because it's so it's plastic, but I'll spook him every now and then by tapping the hammer next to him.
That's a pretty good segue into my next question here. How exactly does the arena play into the matches themselves?
So for the earlier seasons, well, I guess I'll start with the floor actually, which is it's usually a competition to see who can be lowest to the ground. If your robot needs to get under another robot, then your forks have to be lower, or else you're not going to be able to do that. So taking that into account as the first hand or the first priority, I guess. In some seasons more than others, just every now and then the floor gets a little slick or your tires have trouble gripping. So that is like your main focus, but there are hazards throughout the throughout the box. Sorry, it's called the battle box, which makes it very hard when you're also talking about battle bots. But the box has kill saws, which are just these ruts in the floor, which robots can also just get stuck in the ruts if they have like a fork or something hanging off of it. But when there's only a minute left in the match, because they're 3-minute matches, saw blades just pop out of them every now and then. So I would say that that's like the skill test, is watching your time and being very aware of where in the arena you are, or driving your opponents into it. Most recently, they've added the upper deck, which is if you think of the box as well, a square. It used to just be a square, but now there's 2 short corners because they've added a platform in the center, and every now and then you can try and like flip your opponent up there, get it stuck up there. Some people have gotten stuck just not being able to get back down. There are corkscrews, which are corkscrews that just spin and fairly slowly, but you can get your opponent stuck in them or use it to lift them up onto the upper deck. The corkscrews do rotate, so if you're stuck, you can back out once it switches directions, but sometimes just get stuck in there and you can get knocked out just by having an unlucky stick in the corkscrews. And then the pulverizers, like I already mentioned, they are 100-pound hammers. Each team gets 1 or 2 to control, and if you can get your opponent pinned under there and then drop the hammer on them, you can do some real damage to their top armor, or you can use the hammer to keep them pinned and then cut them up without too much recourse. You can have your opponent pinned for 10 seconds before you have to release them, but that's still a lot of time to cut into something when it's being held down by 100 pounds of metal.
Yeah, so you said it used to be on Comedy Central?
Yeah, there was 3 or 4 seasons, maybe even 5 on Comedy Central.
Was that like the early 2000s era?
Yes, it got canceled they're at the end of 2002, which is when the McDonald's toys came out, or 2003, one of those like really early 2000s, and then it made a resurgence on Discovery in 2015, I believe. There's a few seasons of that out now, but yeah, it was a Comedy Central thing.
For some reason, I thought me and my cousin were watching it on Spike TV, but it must have been Comedy Central there.
Yeah, I think Comedy Central, at least I remember when I was a kid, those channels were pretty close together. So yeah, you probably would have flicked back and forth from Spike and Comedy Central. And actually, this makes me so sad. There was a Battlebots game planned for release on the PlayStation 2 and the GameCube, but it was going to be released in 2002 or 2003, and it got canceled, like the show, so they scrapped the game concept. And just within the past year or so, someone on Reddit found the prototype files and everything, and you can emulate it now. I haven't dipped into it personally. Maybe I'm just being hopeful and wanting an official game to come out now that it's popularized again. But yeah, it was supposed to be like a whole video game and everything, and then it just fell off, unfortunately.
Man, I would, if you get to like customize your robot and like unlock parts and like build your shit up, I would be so into that. I've been like, ever since like Custom Robo on the GameCube, I've been looking for any kind of game where I get just a robot that I get to customize.
Yes. I remember as a kid, I still have my GameCube. I should really look into it. If you ever remember the I guess the anime technically, Metabots. There was a GameCube game for that where you could get different parts and upgrade your robot that way.
I loved Metabots.
Yes, so there was the GameCube game for that I loved, and if Battlebots could do something like that for specifically robot combat, I would play that for hours.
Oh, me too. You sent me down such a rabbit hole of watching Battlebots on YouTube. Like the minute I found matches on there, I was just like sitting there like, oh, like reliving my childhood there, remembering like sitting with my cousin. His dad showed us it. Like his dad just wanted us out of his hair. So he just threw Battlebots on they had like a DVR like way back before they were like common. And he's just like, here, watch this. And we ended up just going on a rabbit hole on BattleBots, and he got us the toys for our birthdays and stuff. It was pretty cool.
That's so great. My dad actually just walked into the room, and I got him a BattleBot shirt for Father's Day, and he just held it up, and he's left it on my desk now for the remainder of this interview, I guess. But I'm glad I could send you Spiraling. They're so good at uploading in time. Like they'll upload a lot of their matches within 24 or 48 hours of the episode airing, or at least they'll highlight them on Instagram. So I'm glad I sent you down this rabbit hole because it's totally worth it.
Oh, that's cool. So if you had a BattleBot, what weapons would you be putting on it?
Oh, geez. I think, here's the thing. I have my master's in English. I am no engineer, but I think some of the things that I would find necessary, the forks have really been essential. Even if you're not a flipper bot, it helps keep the other enemies at bay. So I think I would at least need some short forks, or thinking about it now, forks that operate as lifters, because you can have a primary and a secondary weapon. So I think I would have a vertical spinner, which is vertical drum spinners are kind of the meta now, but I think I would keep mine on an arm. A lot of people have the saw blade on an arm. So forks to lift it up, and then the vertical arm to cut into it. I think like the forks would be great for control, and then to be able to have them lift as well would be very handy. And then some things that not all robots have. If your robot can't drive upside down, then you need a self-rider. As you said with your childhood Toy Stories, you had to try and find a way to flip your robot over without touching it. That is a rule in BattleBots.
Mine was a little bit easier because it had that saw blade. I could sometimes flip, but like my cousin's, I don't think it had any way of flipping itself back over.
Yeah, and there are some robots like that will need their vertical arm to try and push themselves back over. Self-riders can be like, those lifters are really handy for it, or some robots will even just have a thing that pops out of them and its only purpose is to flip them back over. In Hydra's case, they'll have to use their hydraulic flipper to launch itself back over if they get stuck. Some robots can drive upside down, which is perfect, except for the controls would be inverted, and that would be difficult. So I think I would just like to mitigate all of that personally and have a self-rider if I had to build one.
Yeah, that makes sense. That definitely put more thought into it than I would. I'd be lost. I wouldn't know where to start. I just know I probably wouldn't want a flamethrower, because in the matches I've seen, the flamethrowers never seem to do anything. Has a flamethrower ever won someone a match in your experience?
I don't think it wins matches, but I think they assist. So the point of the flamethrower usually isn't, that should not be your only weapon. You can have mini bots, and some people will have like their little assist bots, their mini bots have the flamethrowers, or they'll have a small one. It's more to do internal damage than it is to do external damage. And your three categories, if you do go to the judges, if there's no 10-second knockout, you go the full 3 minutes. Your categories are control, aggression, and damage. So they need to see that you've done damage. And what a flamethrower does is it overheats the internals. So you can burn somebody's motor out. You can damage their wires. In very specific cases, it can melt the tires or warp the tires. I think Gruff is a really good example of that. They only have a 38% win rate, but their captain's very happy with the robot. And it really is only a flamethrower, but it's this big, bulky thing. I think it has forks on it too, but like its only real means of doing damage is to push the other robot around into hazards or light them on fire. But the thing is a tank, so it's really a war of attrition. It can outlast its opponent and get those judges' decisions usually, unless they happen to push something around or burn them out. But it is built to just be solid and wear away at the other robot, or hope that another bot comes at it too fast and then does more damage to itself than Gruff. So their weapon is the flamethrower, and it has a 40-ish% win rate, but the flamethrower itself does not win the matches so much as it helps.
Okay, yeah, I kind of assumed it was to damage the internal stuff, but like in all the matches I've seen, it never really seemed to do much other than leave a bit of a scorch on it.
Yeah, and there's definitely I have seen bigger fireballs happen in BattleBots just because a blade cut into the right spot and hit a battery tank or something like that. Fire can do so much more damage to the robots, and the flamethrower has just not been the way to do it. I think it's great as a secondary if you just need something, and you usually, if you do go to the end of the 3 minutes, you need to show that your weapon was functional all match. So I think it's a good secondary weapon. If your first one goes out, at least you have something to show for it. But on their own, yeah, the flamethrowers really aren't all that strong.
That's so interesting. I can't wait to watch more, honestly.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad that I've sent someone spiraling.
What obstacles are there for somebody trying to get into BattleBots, and what advice would you have for them?
So I think first and foremost, I know my first hurdle, other than being kind of stoned when I found it, was like this seems so dorky. I would just say like the nerd stigma was the first hurdle for me to jump over, and then I guess my first advice, other than it's so cool, don't worry about the fact that it's robot combat, is you need to get a couple episodes in. Like I said, it took me 2 or 3 because the first one I was kind of like, well, all right, whatever. And then you just need a little bit of time to actually understand what's going on. There's so many different weapons. Most of the captains are either engineers themselves or in engineering programs or some sort of science background, but some of them are kids. Like you can do a lot of cool things with it, but it can feel really technical at sometimes. So I would say if you're trying to get into it, yeah, give yourself time. You don't need to do all this extra research, but if you actually watch the pre and post match interviews, instead of just like fast forwarding them or whatever, you can get a lot of little information about the robots that helps you understand the bigger picture. Or honestly, you can swing the totally different way and just shut your brain off and not worry about how technical it is. If you can either like don't get hung up on it, you either have to learn it or just don't think about it at all. If you can go back and find some of the older seasons online, I think after COVID hit, they stopped having Peter on there, but there's 2 announcers, and then Peter, they called the Bot Whisperer, and before matches he could kind of, he would listen to the interviews, and he would also go and see the robots before the matches start. So as the teams were coming in, he could explain like, this matchup's going to be really interesting because they're 2 spinners, and so their force is going to really take each other out. Like they switched to this shell on their bot because it'll protect more against the vertical saw. And if you can watch the older seasons with Peter, and you can kind of get the information that you need instead of just like, oh, I wonder why the bot looks different this time. Why did they switch their armor? Either the captains will tell you in the interview, or in the earlier seasons, the Bot Whisperer would tell you. And even now, like the announcers are pretty good at saying like, oh, they said that they did this because of this. So really just pay attention or shut your brain off. No in between. Give yourself the time to adjust to it, and you should be good to go. Honestly, it's just the first hurdle is that there's a lot of different weapons, and there's a lot of different armors and a lot of different material. And if you just kind of piece it together, a few episodes is all you need. And I may have made it sound more complicated, spewing it all back out, but yeah, you just take your time with it and really listen, at least at first, and you can kind of see why the teams are doing what they're doing.
Yeah, I definitely was enjoying it as the kind of like turn your brain off and just like enjoy the robots smashing into each other aspect there.
Yeah, and I think that is how a lot of people start. Like at first, if I know I just said like listen to the interviews and everything, but if you need that couple episodes at least to just watch and be like, okay, I see they hit each other, and clearly this is the more effective weapon or whatever. And then if you get into it and you're like, oh, I really want to know more about this, then you can do the interviews. Really, there's no needed order to it, but if you're like really, really interested in the behind the scenes, I would watch the interviews, or even like go back on YouTube and watch the interviews with the captains and stuff. They're all great.
To wrap things up here, what is your favorite aspect of being a BattleBots fan?
Oh, so I personally, I enjoy it with like friends, or I got my dad into it last season. There was a robot called Ripperoni, which is such a meme. If you're on Twitch or anything like that, you know what Ripperoni itself is, but it's this robot that's shaped like a pizza box, and its blade is painted like a pepperoni pizza. And I started watching BattleBots before my dad did, and then I would watch it upstairs on my computer or on my small TV, and he'd be like, oh, you can come downstairs and watch it, I'll watch it with you. And then it sort of turned into like how I started, where he was like, this is so silly, but he really likes the announcer that intros all the robots, because he always does funny rhymes. And then he saw Ripperoni, and he was like, oh, hell yeah, this is my robot, because it's a pizza. And then, like I said earlier, he brought his shirt in here because I got him a Ripperoni t-shirt. But my favorite part about BattleBots is just like that community. I like doing it with people that I know and enjoying it. I stay away from the Reddit, the subreddit. That is a pretty hazardous place to be. I do follow their Instagram and stuff like that, but I don't super interact with the fandom as much as I do like my friends and stuff like that. So that for me, just that having something to do once a week with my dad or like talking to friends about it is a lot of fun. And I really like, in terms of watching BattleBots, I really like the teams.
Having friends to enjoy stuff with is always a plus.
Yeah. So it's way better than getting into the internet side of things. You know, who would have thought that robot combat could have drama? But there is a lot of it. If we ever have time to chat another time, I can give you some BattleBots drama highlights. But the teams themselves are really great in terms of someone watching it. Like even if maybe robots themselves aren't your thing.
Oh, I would love some of that. Oh yeah, I totally.
Yeah, I'll give you the BattleBots tea.
Have you ever had a bad experience with another BattleBots fan?
Yes, absolutely I have. Not super nice. So again, I mostly stay away from online. Every now and then the comment section gets a little choppy, even on Instagram and stuff like that. So I kind of stay away from the replies. I have learned at 28 years old, I don't need to fight with strangers on the internet. I do have I guess a friend or an acquaintance that I've only spoken with online, and we met through not BattleBots, but one day I had mentioned that I was watching BattleBots, and he also remembered it from when we were much younger. And in turn, he put me onto a show called Junkyard Wars, which also doesn't air anymore, but I found older episodes, which is a two teams of engineers or whoever are challenged to go into a scrapyard and make robots or some sort of mechanical thing and complete challenges with them. So I got him back into BattleBots, and in turn, he put me onto Junkyard Wars. I didn't watch it that often just because the episodes are hard to find online and they're often grainy, but I would say he's the only other person who knows about BattleBots that I interact with that isn't one of my close friends. But yeah, the comment section, the subreddit, all of that, I actively stay away from those.
Yeah, I've found Reddit is a pretty scary place to go for most fandoms. I've yet to have many good experiences. I don't think I've had one good experience actually going on Reddit since I started this show.
Oh yeah, probably not. I looked back at some of your old episodes, and I some of them I'm like, ooh, I've seen that subreddit. I think for the episodes you've done, I have been mostly safe in the Dungeons and Dragons subreddit, but I also don't interact in there super hard. But if you look at that, if you take away the media around it and just enjoy it for the show, you'll definitely find something you like and a really positive experience. Like my favorite part of watching the actual show is the energy that the teams bring. Rotator's captain, who I have the Rotator Hexbug bot there, their captain Victor Soto, in the off season, what he does for his actual job is make robotic prosthetics and stuff like that. So I find that a lot of the teams are really passionate about what they do in and outside of the bots, and I find it's best to just not be parasocial, but enjoy BattleBots for the teams and the energy, as opposed to the other people in the fandom.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's best that way with most things that you enjoy. Some people online are just way too opinionated and they feel safe behind their keyboard, so they're willing to cause way more shit than is really necessary over what's usually a fictional property or a TV show of some sort.
Right, something they have no control over. They just really need to feel like they're a part of it. So yeah, if you meet people online and they have the same interests or the same fandom as you, great, obviously. I have many an internet friend, and I wouldn't discourage people from that.
Oh, yeah.
But I also wouldn't go into a subreddit or an online community looking for that, because that can just be, it can be chaos.
Yeah, that's definitely. Well, thanks a lot for coming on. It's been a blast getting to talk BattleBots with you.
Yeah, this has been awesome. Any chance I can to just go off on robots, I will. And yeah, I loved your questions. They were very comprehensive. I like that a lot.
And if you could see anybody come on the show yourself, Sarah, who would you want to see come on?
I think for bigger podcasters, I hesitate to call it a fandom, but it does have quite a following, would be True Crime. And Christy Lee, she hosts Canadian True Crime. She's originally from Australia, but she's been in Canada for over a decade, and she covers either cases that happened in Canada or to Canadians in other countries. But she's very respectful about it. She's always very victim-centric, and True Crime has just it's such an insane following these days. But I think that she would be great to pick her brain on that. I guess if I had to go smaller, my friend Zach Pruden, he also goes by, depending on, he usually uses his real name, but depending on where you're trying to find him, AZ Down, which is AZD0WN. He's very multifaceted, but he works for the Retro Game Charitable Toy and Video Game Museum, so he has a lot of insight on just really old school games and gaming merchandise and stuff like that. And I think he'd be really neat to talk to on the retro side of things. He's also heavy into rollerblading and makes chiptune music because he's a DJ. So he could grab a couple different subjects if he really wanted to. But the Retrograde Charitable Toy and Video Game Museum, he would have so much experience with. God, I can only imagine just all of the things that they have in that museum that you could talk to him about.
That's awesome. I've wanted to do one on true crime and one on retro gaming. So those are both topics I've actually have on a list of things I want to do.
Oh, perfect. I can always connect you with Zach if you need. Christy, I probably can't connect you with her, but she's really good with her emails. She reads a lot of feedback. She does one episode a year specifically on listener feedback, so you could probably. And she collabs too, so you could definitely get a hold of her.
Yeah, I love true crime, so I'm definitely going to have to check out her podcast, especially if she has an Australian accent, because that's one of my weaknesses. Honestly, like half the podcasts I listen to are from Australia.
Yeah, no, she does. She's kept her accent, as a full adult who came to Canada. It's been a decade, but it's very pronounced. I think you'll enjoy listening to her.
Okay, yeah. If there's an Aussie reading true crime, that is literally like 2 niches I've got checked in one podcast. Yeah, no, I'm there.
Awesome. I think she's got about 150 or so episodes now too, so you'll have a lot of Aussie crime to consume.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. Thanks again. Thanks a lot for coming on again, Sarah.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Brody. This has been great.